When we talk about single parenthood, our minds often jump to the incredible strength of single mothers. But what about the fathers? Today, we're diving into a powerful and honestly often overlooked story. The unique psychological journey of the single dad and the silent blueprint he might be passing down without ever realizing it.
And that's really the question at the heart of all this, isn't it? It's not just about, acknowledging they exist. It's about trying to understand a very specific and often very lonely path, one that has these profound consequences, not just for the father, but for the kids he's raising.
So where does this journey begin? Well, it starts with this really intense internal conflict. The single father finds himself walking the psychological tightrope, getting pulled in two totally different directions by what society expects and the raw reality of raising a child all on his own.
And this right here, this lays that conflict bare. On one hand, you've got the classic script for what a man should be: the rock, the provider, the guy who never shows weakness. But on the other hand, he has to be the primary nurturer, the one who's there for scraped knees, for nightmares, for all that emotional heavy lifting. And those two roles, they are often at war with each other.
This internal war can lead to a state the source material calls Stoic Burnout. Think about it. The pressure to just tough it out means he has no real outlet for his own stress, his own fears, or his exhaustion. So he just keeps going through the motions. But that emotional well, it starts to run completely dry.
And this phrase just perfectly captures the result: a functional ghost. He's there, right? He's making the lunches, he's driving to soccer practice, he's paying the bills. He is physically present. But emotionally, he's a ghost. He just can't connect because there's nothing left to give. And kids, man, they are so perceptive. They feel that absence. Now, a father's emotional state, it doesn't just exist in a vacuum, right? It has this huge ripple effect on his child, and it can often lead to this profound, unspoken role reversal inside the home. There's actually a term for this in psychology. It's called parentification. It's that moment when a child senses their parent's silent struggle and, without even realizing it, takes on the job of managing it. They basically start to parent their own parent.
So how does a kid become a miniature adult? Well, it kicks off with the father's emotional burnout. The child, being super intuitive, senses this unspoken burden. So to avoid adding any more weight, they start to suppress their own needs. They stop asking for things. They hide their own sadness. And here's the kicker. Their sense of self-worth gets all tangled up, not in being a kid, but in how much they can endure in silence. So this experience, it doesn't just go away when the kid grows up. Oh no. It gets baked into their core beliefs. It becomes their blueprint for how to navigate the world and their relationships. A blueprint that teaches them that survival means total, complete self-reliance. The end result is something psychologists call hyper-independence. And let's be clear, this is not just about being a capable, independent person. This is something else entirely. It's a compulsive, almost fear-based self-reliance, where asking for help feels like a personal failure. Why? Because they learned by watching their dad that the only person you can really count on is yourself. This right here, this is basically the mantra that gets programmed into them. It's the internal voice that was shaped by watching their father's silent struggle day in and day out. And it's a voice that makes true, deep intimacy incredibly difficult later on. Okay, so what does this all look like down the road? Well, that blueprint we talked about, the one created in childhood, it can become the unconscious map they use for all their future romantic relationships.
And the way this plays out can look a little different for sons and daughters. Daughters might find themselves drawn again and again to partners who are emotionally distant simply because that silent dynamic feels familiar. It feels like home. And for sons, they might grow up seeing fatherhood not as a joy, but as this crushing burden, which leads them to repeat that same lone wolf pattern. And, well, keep the cycle going.
So, is this just a cycle that's doomed to repeat forever? Absolutely not. And that's the good news. There is a way out. This is where we pivot from just understanding the problem to actually exploring the solution. It's all about making a conscious move from a mindset of survival to one of real connection. And this is such a powerful idea, it completely flips the script. The very thing the father thought was protecting his kids, his stoic silence, was actually creating that blueprint for isolation. So the solution is its polar opposite: transparency, vulnerability. It really just boils down to a conscious choice. On one hand, you've got survival mode. You hide your emotions, you do it all alone, and you teach your kids that endurance is everything. But on the other hand, you have connection mode. You show your emotions, you model what it looks like to ask for help, and you teach your kids that it is okay to be fully, messily human. This quote just sums it all up perfectly, doesn't it? It redefines strength. It's not about how much you can bear in silence. Real strength, the kind that builds connection and breaks these generational cycles, is having the courage to be vulnerable and let other people in.
So look, for any single fathers watching this right now, please know this. You are doing an incredible, impossible job, but your greatest legacy won't be that you did it all by yourself. It will be that you were brave enough to show your children your whole heart.
And if you're an adult who grew up with a single father, trying to understand this blueprint can be so incredibly freeing. His silence, it was never a rejection of you. It was probably the only way he knew how to protect you. But you get to write a new story now. You don't have to carry that silence forward.
So we're going to leave you with this to think about. Whether you're a father, a son, or a daughter, how has this silent blueprint maybe shown up in your life? How was the whole idea of strength defined for you growing up?
This is obviously a really deep topic, and we would genuinely love to hear your thoughts and your own experiences down in the comments. If you got something out of this explainer, please give it a like and subscribe for more deep dives into the psychology that shapes all of our lives. Thanks so much for watching.